watching the women's final with Caitlin Clark, then watched the men's final the next night. Unbelievable. You and I never thought we would see more people watching the women's than the men's NCAA final in basketball. But that happened because of Caitlin Clark. And then the WNBA is completely and utterly unprepared for the moment.
Ridiculous. And that just goes to show, I mean, the joke that this league has been, why it's in the place that it is. You know, they have let all of the hate and jealousy ruin what could have been such a beautiful moment and a beautiful situation for the women's game. Instead of embracing it, they have done everything they can to push the biggest star in women's basketball, in the history of women's basketball, away. And it's ridiculous. All right, it looks like Courtney Williams has taken center stage. Courtney Williams, the all-star guard of the Minnesota Lynx, one half of the stud buds, address this entire Caitlin Clark racism situation. The racist fans, they are targeting the...
She didn't sugarcoat it. She didn't hedge. Courtney Williams looked at her own league and told her fellow professionals to grow up. Her message was simple. If strangers online are sending hate, block them and move on. Don't turn every troll account into a referendum on Caitlin Clark. Don't play victim when the very attention you're complaining about is the same attention that tripled your salary cap and put you on charter flights. That one moment from the Minnesota Lynx All-Star has cracked open something the WNBA has been avoiding all season, and it's bigger than one player's opinion. Let's back up. Sports journalist Christine Brennan, who's covered women's basketball since before most current players were born, recently laid out exactly how the league mishandled the biggest moment in its history. According to Brennan, the WNBA saw this coming from miles away. They watched the women's NCAA championship pull in millions more viewers than the men's final. They saw fans lining up outside arenas for hours just to catch a glimpse of a college player. They knew a seismic shift was heading straight for their league. And they did nothing to prepare for it. No internal meetings, no messaging strategy, no conversations with players about how to handle the kind of spotlight that only comes around once in a generation. Instead of getting ahead of it, the league let resentment quietly build in the background, and that resentment eventually spilled into public view. Brennan points to a pattern, not one single incident. A Hall of Famer went on a podcast and threw out claims about Clark's age and shot volume that simply weren't accurate, and instead of correcting the record, other players rallied behind her. A legend of the game welcomed Clark to the league with a warning rather than a greeting. Another star picked a semantic fight over whether Clark even belonged in greatest of all time conversations, completely missing the point of why people were talking about her in the first place. None of this, Brennan is careful to note, proves that any of it was rooted in outright animosity. Nobody said the quiet part out loud. But the pattern night after night of coldness toward the player the league spent nearly 3 decades hoping for speaks for itself. Here's why this matters beyond hurt feelings. This is about money, real generational money. Clark's rookie year turned the Indiana Fever from a team playing in half-full arenas into a road and home sellout every single night. League-wide attendance jumped by nearly half. TV ratings tripled. Merchandise flew off shelves. And the ripple effect reached every player in the league: better travel, richer media deals, a $2.2 billion rights agreement that dwarfs anything the WNBA has ever seen. That deal isn't hypothetical. It's real, it's signed, and a huge part of why it exists is the audience one rookie pulled in. Before we get into how this actually plays out on the court and where the league goes from here, if you're new to this channel, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We break down the biggest storylines in women's basketball every single week, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. So here's the uncomfortable part. Instead of building the league's entire marketing push around the wave Clark created, some players and voices inside the ecosystem responded with resentment. There's the now infamous bandwagon jab aimed at new fans, the exact fans the league had spent decades trying to attract. You can't beg for mainstream attention for 27 years and then mock it the moment it finally shows up. Then came the racism accusations, and to be clear, there are genuinely awful racist accounts targeting players online, and that's real and it's ugly and it deserves to be called out. But Williams' point isn't that racism online doesn't exist. Her point is that turning every anonymous troll into a story about Clark herself, A player who has repeatedly and publicly condemned that exact behavior isn't holding the right person accountable. It's misdirected frustration dressed up as accountability. And that's the blueprint Williams is offering her league. Acknowledge the ugliness that exists online, deal with it directly, block and report where needed. But stop making the league's biggest asset carry the blame for problems she didn't create. Clark is 23. She's coming off one of the most statistically dominant rookie seasons in basketball history, men's or women's. She plays through hard fouls without complaining. She credits her opponents. She's publicly denounced the exact hate her critics say she's responsible for. And she's still, somehow, treated by parts of her own league as a problem to be managed rather than an asset to be protected. The real question isn't whether Caitlin Clark is good for the WNBA. The numbers already answered that. The real question is whether the league's leadership and its players can get out of their own way long enough to actually capitalize on what they've been handed. Because right now, the blueprint is sitting right there in plain sight. Block the trolls. Support the star. Ride the wave everybody's benefiting from. The only question left is whether the rest of the league is actually going to listen. What do you think? Is this jealousy, poor leadership, or something else entirely? Drop your take in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like this video and subscribe so you never miss our coverage of the biggest stories in women's basketball. Word count ~1020. Want me to follow up with the SEO package? Titles, description, tags, hashtags, thumbnail text, and chapter markers, like usual.